Hey, thanks for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and we are tracking Hurricane Erin and a few storms across Texas and across the southeast. So we're talking about Mississippi, Georgia, Alabama, all in the path for storms today, and then even some hail up to the north. Hey, are you guys going to win the storm? You may actually be there right now. I think this goes for one more day, or maybe today's the first day. Yes, today is the first day for Win the Storm. We have tomorrow and Friday as well. If you're there, come say hello to us. We have a big booth. You can't miss it. We've also got popcorn at our booth as well. So come say hello and check us out. I think that we're also playing a movie, which is a lot of fun. For today, it's a pretty low storm risk, right? So for most of us, it's going to be a high wind risk, but for a few up in the northern portion of the U.S., it'll be a hail risk. We're really tracking Erin. That's going to be the big story today. So where is Erin located? Primarily, what we're watching for today is that turn from the northwest back to the northeast. That's going to be pivotal for states like North Carolina and Virginia. Erin is actually, and what we're watching for here are those strong winds and that storm surge that could cause some really big impacts just off the coast there. So we'll talk about that. That area highlighted in red is that area that Erin, the peripheral impacts of Erin is going to target. And so we'll talk about that here in just a few minutes. Let's go back to your 24-hour storm reports. Let's talk about what we saw over the last 24 hours. We've got some high winds out there from Kansas to Missouri, Arkansas. We even saw a hail report in Missouri as well, just to the south of St. Louis. But for the most part, it was pretty quiet yesterday. We had a beautiful storm come through Oklahoma City, and then that line of storms tracked down into Dallas as we headed into the late and overnight hours. Alrighty, moving on here, let's talk about what we can expect for the rest of the day. We have two areas for strong to severe storms today. One area down to the south, again, for that wind risk. What we saw yesterday was maybe even a mini downburst in Oklahoma City where we saw some really strong winds that came on very fast. Now we can see that once again today where we have strong winds anywhere from the southern and central portion of Texas through most of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and portions of Georgia and Tennessee. We also have another round of storms likely to produce better chances for hail farther up to the north in places like Montana and North Dakota. Tomorrow, that risk shifts to the east just a little bit for North Dakota and Minnesota. And then we have another round of storms on Friday, just a little bit farther down into the south for the central plains. Now, all of this thanks to a few cold fronts or a few stationary fronts that are moving through the U.S. right now. Thankfully, we do have several more cold fronts on the way that is going to help storms and cooler temperatures to come our way by the weekend. Alrighty, let's get into that hail risk here. Now, what you're watching for, if you've never seen this graphic before, you're watching for those darker oranges and red colors to pop up on the map. And yeah, it's pretty impressive in North Dakota today. We're going to have a few isolated storms up in North Dakota, especially in the northern portion of the U.S., the northern portion of the state. That's where you're going to see the largest hailstones today. Now, I only put quarters on our map, but honestly, if I were to go back and do that again after seeing this most recent model data, I would probably up that to golf ball size hail. So I'd probably put one of these orange regions in there for north central to northwestern North Dakota. That's what I would do if I went back and redid this map again. Let's zoom down into that area. Let's put some cities on the board here. Maybe. Okay, maybe no cities today. I know we have cities for your wind risk. All right, let's talk about your wind risk here. That's going to be your more widespread risk for today. What we're going to do is we're going to go down to the south first, and then we'll go back up to the north. Anywhere from Midland to Austin to Waco, we are expecting some strong winds today at level 2 for a lot of us. That's going to mean not only isolated, but up to widespread scattered showers and storms. A few of those going severe, not all of them going severe, but a few of them will. Moving up to the north, there's your cities, Glasgow and Minot. North Dakota here, we've got a better chance for that large hail. Strong winds in this area as well. Your storms are going to be very isolated in Montana today. So I put that at a level 1 risk. And we also have a good chance for a few tornadoes in this area. We have a level 1 tornado risk highlighted there in green in North Dakota. So we've got 2 areas for storms, but what we're really watching for is, of course, that hurricane that's churning out in the Atlantic. And this is a big storm. This is a really big hurricane. It's actually bigger today than it was yesterday, bigger than what it was a few days ago. While you may have seen the intensity of this storm go down to a Cat 2, we have seen this storm grow in size. And what we're seeing now is this storm is reforming its eye. You can see that right in the center of the hurricane right there, and it's strengthening. So we're going to see that go from a Cat 2 to a Cat 3. And we'll talk more about that here in just a few minutes. But I want to get through some of your other chances for rain today. So back on land, let's take you back down to Texas today. Yeah, we have a chance. Hail? No, maybe less than the size of a quarter. This is what we call pocket change hail, probably a dime, penny, nickel sized if you're lucky. You most likely will not get hail today down in Texas. Your wind speeds, that's going to be the biggest risk today. About 60-mile-per-hour wind speeds are possible in this area. Very, very similar as we head farther to the east as well. Going into places like Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia, we have a very similar outlook for storms today, where it's going to be high winds and isolated flooding for the biggest risks. Now let's go up to the north. Let's take you to North Dakota, where I would say you have a better chance for storms today. You have a better chance for hail in North Dakota today, and you have a better chance for several tornadoes as well. What about that flooding risk? Well, we have a level 1 flooding risk for most of the southern portion of the U.S. We're going to keep that around for tomorrow as well, but I know a lot of people have tuned in for the hurricane risk, so I've kind of sped through our inland risks for today, and I want to get out to that hurricane. So what you're going to see here is you're going to see Category 2 hurricane, Hurricane Erin. You're going to see one area for development, cyclone development over the next few days. You're going to see a second area for cyclone development over the next 5 to 6 days. Let's start with Erin. Category 2 right now, but I told you that it's reforming its eye. You can see that right in the center of the storm right there. And then you're going to see it strengthen from Category 2 to Category 3, not something that we expected here. Right now at a 941 millibar internal pressure, that's not bad, pretty impressive. Remember that the lower that pressure, the stronger the storm. It's moving to the north at 13 miles an hour. Now this is what we want to see. Earlier this morning, it was moving to the northwest. Now it's taking that turn back to the north, and eventually it'll take that turn back to the northeast. And so that's what's going to help to keep it away from places like North Carolina and Virginia. Currently, we've got strong wind speeds at about 110 miles an hour, but we're expecting those wind speeds to get stronger as we are expecting a Category 3 hurricane as this storm makes that turn back to the northeast, and then it'll get into some cooler waters, and we'll see the strength decrease. We'll see that intensity decrease farther up to the northeast. So that's Erin. We'll talk about those other 2 disturbances in just a few minutes, but I want to talk about the impacts of Erin. What we have right now is a pretty widespread wind field, especially given the size of this storm. That wind field stretches out much farther than just the eye, but all the way off to the coast, to the east coast of places like North Carolina and Virginia. So we're going to highlight a few areas here. We're going to start with Hatteras Island right here. So Hatteras, or maybe Hatteras Bay. What we're watching for in this area is a 26% chance for strong tropical storm force winds, 39 miles per hour or stronger. The peak for those winds are going to be tomorrow afternoon, so about 24 hours from now. So we're about 24 hours out from the strongest winds here in the U.S. Wind speeds go down as we head into Friday, Saturday, and of course, as this storm moves off, we are not worried about those strong winds anymore. Now let's talk about the flooding and the storm surge risks in this area, because we do have several watches and warnings in place right now. Highlighted in red, we have a flash flood warning and a tropical storm warning. All of these in effect until at least Thursday, but could be extended. We have several flood warnings as well. Coastal flood warnings is mainly what we have in effect here for, of course, strong storm surge and really, really high winds, and then those outer rain bands off the east coast as well. What is storm surge? Excuse me, one more time there. All right, what is storm surge? I think a lot of people, especially around, the central portion of the U.S., we don't know what storm surge is. We've never had to deal with it. But it's one of the most deadly things about hurricanes. It's less about the strong winds in hurricanes and more about that flooding and the water that comes with it. So we'll start with the winds first, right? We know that hurricanes bring really strong winds. These winds are coming from the ocean inland, and it's pushing those waves inland as well. And as the water rises up and those waves get bigger and bigger, that's going to threaten houses and people, of course, with incoming water. So what we're expecting from this storm right here is about 4-foot storm surge, okay? So something that we're used to dealing with. However, you get some of those Outer Banks areas of North Carolina, you get some of those smaller islands or smaller peninsulas, and that could be even just 4 feet, really, really impressive and very, very impactful. What we're also watching for here is storm surge inundation. So you not only have those strong winds pushing waves off from the coast or off from the Atlantic into the coast, but you could also see that from some of our streams and rivers all the way back into places like North Carolina. There's Erin right there, our very, very impressive low pressure system. We've got another high pressure system that's keeping us pretty hot across the central to western portion of the U.S. As Erin continues to track to the north and then back off to the northeast, a lot of these upper level systems are in play here. We've got a high pressure system that's sitting across the Atlantic. We've got the upper level strong winds, the jet stream, that's helping to push that back off to the east and helping it to get out of places like the New England states and portions of Canada. Wind shear. Hurricanes don't like wind shear. See those areas highlighted in blue? That's high wind shear. That's going to help to decrease that hurricane strength as the storm moves farther up to the north. And here's your spaghetti plots. Spaghetti plots are a combination of a few models that give us a range of different outcomes from this storm. Most of them agree that we are going to continue to see this turn back to the northeast. Very important there. All right, let's talk about the other 2 disturbances that we have on the board here. A 10% chance for another tropical cyclone formation in the next 2 days. Very, very low chance there. The Hail family asking, is it a hurricane? Is Erin a hurricane? Yes. Category 2 hurricane right now. Category 3 hurricane in the next few hours. However, we have 2 other disturbances. Those are not hurricanes right now. They're not tropical cyclones. They're not named right now. We've got a 10% chance to see this storm form into a tropical cyclone over the next 2 days. Actually, what it's doing is it's taking Erin's path, right? Erin has kind of churned out a path for other storms behind it to follow in its wake. And this is very, very common come hurricane season. It's like someone switched on the hurricane light switch and said, it's on. We're going to see round after round after round of storms here. So here's your first round, 60% chance of tropical cyclone formation in the next 7 days. And then moving a little bit farther to the east, we have a 40% chance for tropical cyclone formation in the next 2 to 7 days. I would probably go late this weekend. Invest 99L, that's what we're calling this right now. Basically what the National Hurricane Center has said is they've deemed this an invest, saying that we are interested in this storm. And once we deem that an invest, then they can send hurricane hunters out to this area and gather important information on this storm. Once this storm becomes named, it will be either Fernand or Gabrielle, depending on which one comes first, right? So if let's go back here. Maybe. All right, my system's freezing up, but there we go. It'll come back to us. Okay, so it depends on which disturbance becomes a storm first, right? Tropical storm, which one will it be? Will it be this one that's in the central of the Atlantic or farther out to the east? Either way, the next 2 on deck is Fernand and Gabrielle. After that, we get to Humberto, I hope I'm saying that correctly, Imelda, Jerry, Karen, and Lorenzo. Now we do at HailTrace, we expect to at least get to Lorenzo this year. Here's a look at your 2025 HailTrace forecast. So we'll start with the average. The average named storms, for an average season every year, we usually have about 14 named storms. 7 of those, so about half of those, will become hurricanes, and 3 of those will become major hurricanes. Last year, we overperformed. We had more storms than normal, we had more hurricanes than normal, and we had more major hurricanes than normal. This year, we also expect to overperform. So about average to above average this year, just by a few storms. We're expecting at least 12 to 17 named storms this year, 6 to 10 of those turning into hurricanes, and 2 to 3 of those major hurricanes. Now, Erin was the first hurricane of 2025, and it was a major hurricane, so we're already checking off a few of those boxes that we expected to hit here. And this is pretty typical. I think a lot of people originally said this is such a slow season. Will we be able to overperform like we did last year? And yes, I mean, this is very, very normal. Usually hurricane season starts out very slow, and then it starts to rapidly increase and get a lot more active as we head into the end of August. And then we kind of slow down as we head into the end of September and early October. There's your hurricane forecast. Let's go back to your storms on land. Pretty low chance for anything severe today. If we do get anything severe, it'll probably be high wind down to the south and hail up to the north. Tomorrow we have another hail and tornado threat for North and South Dakota and Minnesota. And then by Friday we go back into the Central Plains and northern portion of the Midwest. There's your forecast. Any pressing questions before we move on to temperature? John's back here producing for us. Thank you, John. He says not right now. You've got a few more minutes to get your questions in before we end the forecast. Let's go ahead and talk about temperatures here. Thankfully, it has cooled down across a good portion of the U.S. Much cooler in New York today, much cooler across our New England states. The Midwest has a cool down as well, and we get a little bit of a cool down here in the Southern Plains. Will that continue? For some of us, it will. It's going to get a bit hotter out to the west. It's going to stay about average, if not below average, as we head into the weekend here in the Southern Plains. That's going to be really nice. We have a cold front coming through, which is going to make our next few days much cooler. So you may see temperatures go like this for a little bit, right? We talk about the roller coaster that these temperatures are on, but it's nicer to see them go up and down instead of just stay up and hot for day after day after day. So there's a look at your highs as we head into the weekend. Anything impressive here? Low 90s, we'll take it. I would like to see something in the 80s. You know, Kansas City, you're in the 70s. That looks amazing. And holy moly, as we head into the end of August, thankfully it looks like temperatures have a really good chance to be below average for this time of the year. Now, you probably have seen this weather map all over social media, right? I've seen this everywhere. Every meteorologist has posted this weather map. What does this mean? How do you read this map? So basically what this means is that the darker these blues are, the better chance you have for temperatures to be below normal. We are not talking about a nice crisp 55 for your afternoon high. No, but for most of us, maybe up in the far, far northern portion of the U.S. But for most of us, what this means is that temperatures have a high likelihood of being below normal. So if your average high is 90 degrees, you have a really good chance for highs to be in the 80s. And hey, we'll take it, especially in August. We'll take the 70s, we'll take the 80s anytime we can get it. It'll be a taste of fall just in time for football season, which will be really nice. And thankfully as well, we've got some rain coming to the west coast. Now, of course, across the Four Corners and across the west, anything that helps to cool them down and to mitigate the fire season, we're thankful for that. This is a great question. My brother is in Baltimore this week. Is Hurricane Erin going to be any issue for him? You know, I want to make sure that I'm giving you the right answer here, so I'm going to consult my weather maps real quick. I'm going to step right off the screen because I've got a computer over here. And I'm going to make sure I'm giving you the right information because that's a great question. Oops. Give me just a minute here. And this is one of the best things about doing these Facebook and YouTube lives is that we can have these conversations back and forth, right? Okay, looking at some of the weather maps, it looks like, ooh, a high of 80 today, 81. That's not too bad. It's going to get hot by the end of the week. It looks like you guys are going to have a lot of rain today, tonight, and early tomorrow, finally drying off by late on Thursday, and then it looks nice and sunny as you head into the weekend as temperatures warm up from the low 80s to the upper 80s. Let's get some more information here. Check a few more weather maps. And I'm going to read what the National Weather Service says. It says that Hurricane Erin should not be a direct impact to you, right? It's not making landfall on the U.S. at all. However, it could cause things to be a bit rainy for a while. So that's why we were talking about that rain, not only today, but also tomorrow and into the early portion of Thursday. You've got some tidal flooding. So if you're close to the coast, then you may have some flooding. You may find another place or just not go out to the beach on that day. And again, that'll be late on Wednesday and early Thursday. Great questions. Yeah, I know those hurricane maps, they say, and we've had a lot of focus on places like North Carolina and Virginia, but of course there's other places, right, that could be impacted by this storm. And let's go back one more time to some of these hurricane maps right here. So again, there's your coastal flooding and your coastal alerts. We've got tropical storm warnings in place. We've also got flood warnings and we've got flood watches in place as well. So just a reminder that, we've talked a lot about North Carolina, we've talked a lot about Virginia, but a few of these other places could be impacted, especially right at the coast. If you go inland a little bit, your conditions are going to be a lot safer. John says, I hope he can handle some rain. I think he can too. And I don't even think we can check the excessive rainfall. I don't think that Baltimore is included in the excessive rainfall. Here, let's look. Because that'll determine a lot of the flooding that they get. All right, so here's today's flood outlook. So a level 1 risk for flooding today. What that means is that you could see some isolated flash flooding. And of course, that's all because it's just continuous rain today and early tomorrow morning. But as we head into tomorrow, yeah, that flood risk goes away. So I'm not too worried about that Baltimore weather unless you're right at the coast. Great questions here. And there you go. There's your forecast today. Thanks for joining us. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and we do a forecast every single day right around lunchtime. We try to get out here by noon, but some things happen, and sometimes we're out here closer to 12:20. So hit that alert button so you know every single time that we're live. We also cover live weather. So if storms are hitting your area, there's a really good chance that we're covering it. We're showing you the radar. We're talking about the biggest impacts. Follow us in the meantime on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And give us a call if you're interested in a hail, wind, or tornado map. You can call us at 855-334-4245 or email us at info@hailtrace.com. You can head over to our website, hailtrace.com, for more information. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you back here, same time, same place tomorrow.